what if I told you there's a simple, affordable supplement that could help you rebuild muscle, melt stubborn fat, and calm the chronic inflammation in your body, all without complicated protocols or expensive treatments? Imagine something so well researched and safe that scientists continue discovering new benefits decades after it first gained attention. It's not some exotic ingredient. It's not locked away behind expensive prescriptions. It's something nearly anyone can access. And for those of us navigating life after 60, its effects can be genuinely transformative. Now, I'm Barbara O'Neill, and here at Older Orbit, we don't chase trends or promote miracle cures. We explore science, we examine what actually works, and we help you understand how to support your body as it ages with dignity and strength. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most misunderstood yet powerful supplements available, creatine. We're going to break down how it works, how to take it correctly, and why just a small daily amount, somewhere between 5 and 7 grams, can make such a profound difference in your life. So let's start with the most important question: why does this even matter as we get older? Why should you care about a supplement that's often associated with younger athletes? The answer lies in 3 fundamental challenges that almost all of us face as the years go by: rising inflammation, slowing metabolism, and declining muscle mass. These aren't just minor inconveniences. They're the foundation of fatigue, weakness, stubborn weight gain, and recovery that takes forever. And here's something powerful: creatine addresses all 3 of those problems directly. Think about inflammation for a moment. We hear that word constantly, but what does it really mean? Inflammation is your body's natural response to injury or stress. But when it becomes chronic, when it's always simmering just beneath the surface, it contributes to joint pain, heart disease, cognitive decline, and that general sense of being worn down. As we age, our bodies tend to produce more inflammatory signals even when we're not sick or injured. It's like having a fire alarm that won't turn off, and that constant noise wears us out. Now add to that a slowing metabolism. The number of calories your body burns at rest drops over time. Your cells don't produce energy quite as efficiently. You might notice you can't eat the way you used to without gaining weight, or that you feel tired more often even when you haven't done anything particularly strenuous. And finally, there's sarcopenia, the gradual loss of muscle mass that begins in our 30s and accelerates in our 60s and beyond. Less muscle means less strength, less balance, less independence. It means higher risk of falls, fractures, and losing the ability to do the activities we love. So when I tell you that creatine addresses inflammation, supports metabolism, and directly builds and preserves muscle, I'm not talking about vanity. I'm talking about quality of life. I'm talking about being able to play with your grandchildren, carry your own groceries, travel without exhaustion, and maintain the freedom that comes with a body that still works well. You know, thousands of people in our community have shared their stories about how understanding these 3 factors changed everything for them. If you're finding this helpful so far, you might want to stick around, because what we're about to cover next is something most doctors never explain to their patients. But before we go any further, let's clear up the confusion. What exactly is creatine, and why is there so much noise and myth surrounding it? Here's the truth: creatine is not a steroid. It's not some risky experimental compound. Creatine is a naturally occurring substance that your body already makes, primarily in your liver and kidneys, and it's stored in your muscles. Its job: to help produce ATP, which stands for adenosine triphosphate. Think of ATP as the energy currency of every cell in your body. When your muscles contract, when your brain fires signals, when your heart beats, ATP is what powers it all. And creatine helps regenerate ATP faster, especially during short bursts of intense activity. Now, The most effective and well-researched form is creatine monohydrate. It's been around for decades. It's inexpensive. It's safe. And despite what some supplement companies might want you to believe, fancier forms aren't better. Study after study shows that plain old monohydrate works just as well, if not better, than these more expensive alternatives. Here's something fascinating that newer research has uncovered. How you take creatine matters almost as much as taking it at all. You see, creatine is transported into your muscle cells by a specific protein, and this transporter depends on sodium. That's right, salt. When you combine your creatine with just a small pinch of salt or an electrolyte drink, studies suggest your muscles can absorb between 40 and 50% more creatine compared to taking it alone. Why? Because if your sodium levels are low, the creatine doesn't get shuttled into the muscle cells as efficiently. Instead, it lingers in the space around the cells, and that's when you might notice puffiness or water retention that some people complain about. So if you've ever felt bloated on creatine, it might not be because you're taking too much. It might be because you're not taking it with enough sodium to help your body actually use it. Now, I know some of you are probably thinking about pausing this video to write that down. The sodium trick. And you know what? That's exactly what I hope you'll do. Take notes, save this information, because we're building a complete roadmap here, and by the end, you'll have everything you need. In fact, some viewers have told me they've watched our videos 2 or 3 times, taking notes each time. That's the kind of commitment that leads to real change. So what does creatine actually do once it's inside your muscles? Let's talk about the muscle effect, because this is where things get really exciting, especially for older adults. Multiple studies have looked at people doing resistance training while taking creatine. On average, those who took creatine gained about 2.5 pounds more lean muscle compared to those who trained without it. But here's the kicker. They also lost about 1.5 pounds of fat. Let me say that again. Creatine didn't just help people build muscle. It also helped them lose fat. Researchers are still working out exactly why this happens. It could be related to reduced inflammation, which allows fat cells to break down and burn more efficiently. It could be that having more muscle mass increases your resting metabolic rate, so you burn more calories even when you're sitting still. Or it could be something else entirely. But the point is this isn't just about looking more toned. It's about changing your body composition in a way that supports better health, better mobility, and better metabolic function. And when we look at strength gains, the data is equally impressive. People taking creatine pushed on average about 10 pounds more with their upper body across various lifts and around 25 pounds more with their lower body. Now, these are averages, so your individual results will vary. But think about what that means in practical terms. If you're someone who struggles to get up from a chair, or who finds stairs exhausting, or who worries about carrying a bag from the car, even a modest increase in strength can be life-changing. What's particularly interesting is that creatine seems to have a bigger effect on the lower body than the upper body. Why? It could be that the larger muscle groups in your legs, glutes, and hips have more creatine transporters, or that they simply respond better to the energy boost creatine provides. Either way, if your goal is to build stronger legs, improve your balance, or reduce your risk of falls, creatine is an incredibly powerful tool. You know what's interesting? When I share this research, I often get comments from people saying, "I wish my doctor had told me this years ago." And honestly, that's why we created Older Orbit, to fill those gaps. If you're getting value from this deep dive approach, you're exactly the kind of person we want in our community. We go deeper than surface level health advice because you deserve to understand the science behind what's happening in your body. But how much should you take? And does it matter when or how you take it? For a long time, the standard recommendation was 5 grams a day. That's still a solid baseline, but newer research suggests that 7 grams might actually be closer to the sweet spot for most people, especially if your goal is to maximize muscle growth and strength. If you're focusing specifically on lower body training, say you're working on squats, lunges, leg presses, or just walking more, a consistent daily dose of around 7 grams seems to work best. Now, if you're more interested in building upper body strength, maybe you want to improve your ability to lift things overhead, carry bags, or do push-ups, there's some evidence that a loading phase might give you better results. A loading phase means taking a higher dose, around 20 grams per day, split into smaller amounts throughout the day, for about 5 to 7 days. After that, you drop down to a maintenance dose of around 5 to 7 grams. This approach seems to saturate the creatine stores in your upper body muscles more quickly. But here's the reality if you're older. Your creatine transporters might not be quite as efficient as they were when you were younger. That doesn't mean creatine doesn't work for you. It just means you might need a bit more. Some experts now recommend that people over 50 consider taking anywhere from 10 to 15 grams per day, especially if they're very active or dealing with significant muscle loss. That might sound like a lot, but remember, creatine is one of the most studied and safest supplements we have. The risk is minimal and the potential benefit is enormous. And timing. Honestly, it matters less than you might think. For years, people obsessed over whether to take creatine before or after a workout. The truth is, consistency is far more important than timing. Your muscles store creatine over time. So as long as you're taking it every day, you're building up those stores and reaping the benefits. Some people like to take it with a meal, some with a shake, some just mixed into water with a pinch of salt. Find what works for you and stick with it. Now, I'm going to guess that some of you are already mentally planning your first creatine purchase. And that's great. But here's what I'd love for you to do once you start. Come back and let us know how it's going. Drop a comment in a week, a month, 3 months. Share your experience, because your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear to take that first step. That's how we build momentum together here at Older Orbit. Now, creatine isn't just about muscle and strength. It also has profound effects on your overall metabolism and recovery. And this is something that often gets overlooked. Research has shown that creatine improves performance in both anaerobic exercise, things like weightlifting and sprinting, and aerobic exercise, things like walking, cycling, and swimming. You might be thinking, I thought creatine was only for short, explosive movements. Why would it help with endurance? Great question. It turns out that creatine does a lot more than just regenerate ATP quickly. It reduces inflammation throughout your body. It reduces oxidative stress, which is the damage caused by free radicals. It improves something called acid buffering, which helps your muscles clear out lactic acid and other waste products that make you feel sore and fatigued. And it speeds up glycogen replenishment, which means the carbohydrates you eat get stored more efficiently in your muscles and liver, ready to fuel your next activity. All of this adds up to better recovery. And better recovery means you can do more often, without feeling wiped out. Whether you're someone who lifts weights, someone who walks every morning, or someone who just wants to feel less exhausted at the end of the day, creatine can help. And here's something else worth mentioning. Women might actually need more creatine than men. This might seem counterintuitive, but recent research has shown that women naturally store about 10% more creatine in their muscles at baseline compared to men. However, their bodies produce somewhere between 70 and 80% less of it endogenously, that is, on their own. So women start with higher storage capacity, but they make far less creatine naturally, which means they need to get more from their diet or supplements to fill those stores. The practical takeaway: if you're a woman, consider taking about 10 to 20% more creatine than the standard recommendation. So instead of 7 grams, you might aim for 8 or 9. And if you take it with a little bit of sodium, you'll avoid that bloated feeling and actually get the creatine where it needs to go, into your muscles, not floating around in the extracellular fluid. I want to pause here for a second and acknowledge something. If you've made it this far into this video, you're not a casual viewer. You're someone who genuinely cares about understanding your health at a deeper level. And that's rare. Most people will watch 30 seconds and move on. But you're investing half an hour of your time to truly understand how your body works. That tells me you're serious about making changes. And that's exactly the kind of person who sees real results. So thank you for being here and for taking this seriously. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. You've heard stories. You've seen headlines. Maybe a friend told you that creatine causes hair loss or damages your kidneys or messes with your liver. So let's talk about the myths, because this is where a lot of fear and confusion comes from. And I want to put those concerns to rest once and for all. First, hair loss. This one has been circulating for years, and it all stems from one small study where researchers thought they saw an increase in a hormone called DHT, which is associated with male pattern baldness. But here's the thing multiple larger. More rigorous studies have since looked at this question, and they found no connection whatsoever. One randomized controlled trial measured DHT levels, testosterone levels, and even examined hair follicles directly. The result: zero change. No hair loss, no thinning, nothing. So if you've been avoiding creatine because you're worried about your hair, you can put that fear to bed. It's simply not supported by the evidence. Next, kidney health. This is a big one because creatine does increase a compound in your blood called creatinine, which is a byproduct of creatine metabolism. Doctors often use creatinine levels to assess kidney function, so when people see their creatinine go up after taking creatine, they panic. But here's what the research shows: that increase is a perfectly normal response to supplementation. It doesn't indicate kidney damage or stress. Studies looking at people who take even very high doses of creatine have found no evidence of harm to the kidneys in healthy individuals. Now, if you already have kidney disease or impaired kidney function, that's a different story. You should absolutely talk to your doctor before taking creatine or any supplement. But for the vast majority of people, creatine is completely safe for the kidneys. What about the liver? There was a single rat study where they gave the animals an absurdly high dose of creatine, far beyond anything a human would take, and didn't have them exercise at all. In that very specific, unrealistic scenario, they saw some changes in liver enzymes. People latched onto that and ran with it. But when you look at the human data, hundreds of studies, thousands of participants, doses ranging from low to very high. There's no evidence of liver damage or dysfunction, so no, creatine does not harm your liver. Now, I share these myth-busting facts because misinformation is everywhere, and unfortunately fear spreads faster than truth. That's why we take the time here at Older Orbit to go deep, to look at the actual research, and to separate fact from fiction. If you appreciate this approach, if you value having someone who actually digs into the science instead of just repeating headlines, then I hope you'll help us reach more people who need this information. A simple like a share or just telling one friend about this channel makes a real difference. All right, let's bring this all together. Creatine is safe, it's effective, it's affordable. And for those of us navigating life after 60, it can be one of the most powerful tools we have for maintaining strength, burning fat, reducing inflammation, and staying independent. Here's what I want you to do. Start simple. Get yourself some creatine monohydrate. You can find it for about $20 online. Start with 5 to 7 grams a day. Take it with a pinch of salt or an electrolyte drink to enhance absorption. Be consistent. Take it every single day and give it a few weeks. Pay attention to how you feel, how your workouts go, how your energy levels change. Now, before you go, I need to ask you something. What's your biggest health goal for the next 90 days? Is it building strength, losing stubborn weight, having more energy to keep up with your grandkids? Whatever it is, I want you to do something right now. Pause this video and write it down in the comments below. Why? Because when you declare your goal publicly, something powerful happens. You create accountability, you commit, and you join a community of people who are on the same journey. Trust me, when you come back in a month and report your progress, it will inspire someone else to start their own journey. And if you found this deep dive valuable, if it answered questions you've been wondering about, hit that like button. It tells YouTube that this content matters, and it helps us reach more people in our old aerobic community who need this information. Finally, subscribe if you haven't already, because every week we're bringing you science-backed strategies for aging stronger, sharper, and healthier. No gimmicks, no quick fixes, just real information that actually works. Remember, you're not just watching a video. You're taking control of your health. You're making a choice to understand your body better. And that choice, repeated day after day, is what creates lasting change. I'll see you in the next one. Stay strong, stay curious, and keep orbiting toward better health here at Older Orbit.